Time keeps on slipping into the future.
Oh, man. Great.
Great
Okay.
on, guys.
Everybody, shut up now.
Rachel, you were given strict orders to shut up now.
Hello, and welcome to Way Too Scared, a Halloween episode special of Way Too Broad, a place where friends go to get together and talk about things that make them sound chicken.
Good one. How long did it take you to write that intro, Hannah?
I'm Hannah, and these are my normal co-hosts, Aaron and Ben.
Hey.
Hello.
Ben says hello. And also we have a cast...
They heard me, Hannah.
Like a cast of thousands who have joined us to help us debate the most important topic on the internet,
abnormal.
which is what are scarier, ghosts or zombies? So let's introduce Team Ghost first. Team Ghost is led by Aaron.
Hey,
So, Aaron,
Hannah and Ben.
Why don't you introduce your team and we'll have them speak a little bit.
Yeah, so here with me today on my team, I have my wife, Molly.
Hey, it's Molly.
And
Molly.
I also on my team, I have the lovely Kylie.
Hey.
And I also have the lovely and stuttering Kylie. And I also have Lucas and Allison.
Yeah! That's us. Hello. We're not ghosts.
Welcome to our special guests. Guests of the snack. No one is a ghost today, as far as we know.
It's an audio medium. You didn't have to tell them you weren't ghosts.
Oh. We also... Okay, well, we'll introduce you last. So, Team Zombo...
What's up?
Hello.
Team Zombo has 3 members represented here today. I'm one of them. And Ben is another normal co-host. And we also have... we brought in some reinforcements with Rachel. So, hi, Rachel.
Hello.
Shout-ins to Rachel.
Shout in.
What's up, Rachel?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Mad shoutin'. Mad shoutin'.
Thank you.
Also in a consulting capacity, sort of in between teams because he's just too vague and difficult to choose.
Way too vague.
Way too vague.
Way too vague.
Is my husband Ian.
Hi.
Hi, Ian. You should lean in more.
I should.
Okay, great job. Woo!
No, that's ghosts. That's not.
So, let's lay some ground rules for ourselves. So,
Below ground.
first I thought maybe we could have a little bit of an open discussion about our definitions for ghosts and zombies.
Something Kylie and I have been disagreeing about all day.
Yes.
Tell me about your disagreement.
Yeah.
So is it alright if I go ahead and define my definition of ghost then?
Yeah,
Please
please
define
do.
the definition.
Yeah, so our disagreement was that when I say ghost, I don't necessarily mean just like this the remnants of a dead person, just like the spirit of just a dead person, even though that's kind of the strict definition. I'm also including poltergeists and demons and any sort of like malevolent spirit.
Completely agree.
And that's like where the real fear for me comes from, rather than just like the idea of like some guy who died and now I see his glowing body
Kylie,
or something.
I also agree with you
Yeah.
about all of those things count as a ghost to me.
Absolutely, 100%.
You guys might not be shocked to hear that I do not agree.
I also do not agree.
Okay, but
I
you're
mean-
not on our team, so
I'm
it
seeing a
doesn't matter.
strict Zombo ghost rift here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll give you poltergeists. Poltergeists are obviously ghosts. I agree with that. And
Yeah.
even malevolent spirits, so that's a little ambiguous, but demons, definitely not.
Demons, no.
Absolutely not. Demons are a whole different ballgame.
Demons come from hell. They don't come
Yes.
from Earth.
Exactly.
I mean, but that's kind of the
Hell,
definition.
limbo.
You have to discuss the definition of demon, because when you look it up, because I looked it up, it does say, it says malevolent spirit.
Okay. Do you want to look up ghost then and tell me what that
But
says?
listen, we're expanding that definition.
Because if you look up ghost, it says specifically about a dead person and like
Okay,
their spirit
well,
left
it's
them
okay.
there.
We can agree to disagree. Oh, also, maybe even before we start talking about our definition of zombies, Rachel had a really excellent idea for something that we should establish right up front. Do you want to tell everybody what your idea is?
Are you referring to the safe words?
Yes.
Or words?
Oh,
Oh, let's hear about the safe words.
Right.
Well, I hadn't come up with a really good safe word. Maybe we can agree on one as a group. But since this is meant to be a discussion and not like a fight to the death with a clear winner, it seemed like it could be appropriate to, if you start feeling uncomfortable and like you're being ganged up on, then perhaps you could call out the safe word, which I haven't defined that safe word. Does anyone have any suggestions?
While you were gone, I suggested narwhal, and I think that's been a good theme of discussion here. I think we can all agree narwhals are real. You know, whether we can agree about whether ghosts or zombies are real. I think we all know
Narwhals are amazing.
narwhals are real.
That sounds good.
By the way,
I like
you guys
it.
should make sure to check the
Narwhal.
reviews for the podcast after this, because I read a really
What's a
interesting
podcast?
one.
Oh,
Just gonna leave it at that.
We'll check it out.
check it out.
I would also like to say about the definition, and, you know, I think the whole spirit of this, pun intended, is that we're talking about what we're afraid of. And so I think if, like, Kylie's definition includes, like, a demon spirit and possession, and that's in the same category as ghosts, I think we can lump that in the sake of this. Because, like, the whole point is that we're scared of it, and if we're equally afraid of those things, I feel like it totally, quote-unquote, counts.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you
point,
for your
Aaron.
support.
Yeah.
Thanks, babe.
I agree with that. But I do think that we should all be allowed to have our own definitions, and if it comes to a point where they're conflicting and causing us to get stalled out,
Then just shout
then
narwhal.
You can just say narwhal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I call narwhal.
I call narwhal, yeah. We can call narwhal. Okay, so should we define zombies then?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that they're anything that is like undead or was human and is no longer human, that is out to eat or kill humans, that does not have any of its like old memories. In other words, yes, like Night of the Living Dead zombies, but also like 28 Days Later, where it's a rage virus or something like that, but still it's transmissible. Also, that's important.
Yeah.
That for me, that it's transmissible through like bite or easily transmissible between people.
Part, really.
Yep. I
Hannah,
agree.
what about non-human zombies? Can animals be zombies?
Yes. I
I'm
think
cool
so.
with it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll
I'm not
allow
cool
it.
with that.
Allowed, yeah.
Cool. So no arguments on the definition of zombos?
Yeah, they're much more.
No,
clear
but
about it.
and maybe we'll get into this later. It's interesting, like you brought up a couple of movies, how even within that definition there are several different versions of zombies. So anyway,
I agree.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about ghosts, though.
right.
yeah.
So, okay, cool. So, then, everybody has picked a piece of media that helps them to illustrate to us why they're afraid of what they're afraid of. Is there anything else up front that we wanted to talk about before we get into people kind of telling their thing and why they picked
So
it?
happy to be here, and I love you guys.
Oh, man. Lucas, we love you, bro.
Wow.
We love you too.
Happy birthday. 2
Yeah,
days
happy
ago.
belated birthday.
Hey.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Happy belated birthday.
May you encounter neither zombie nor ghost.
So far, so good. Although,
As long
funny
as you
story,
may live.
The wellest
last
of
night,
wishes.
Allison and I were, catching up on the zombie media, the zombie media, and then I immediately afterwards rewatching my contribution to this, and then like a few hours after you go to bed, I'm trying to cleanse my mental palate with some Adventure Time, and then the power goes out, like all throughout my block. So.
I'd also like to add, not only may you not encounter one, may you not ever become one either.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Neither
good
zombie nor
If I was
ghost.
a ghost, I would
Yeah.
give you guys
Honestly,
the best
being a
haunts.
ghost might be kind of sick.
It could be cool.
I would haunt you guys real good.
Thank you.
Super nice haunt. I also wanted to ask did anybody talk to their like family members about this question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Because I just happened to notice that, my whole family, besides Lucas, but he was at one point that I talked to, has been Team Zombo. So I was wondering what everybody else's results were from that.
I asked, my family consists of 3 young children, and then also my mom. So I asked them, and only one of my siblings was Team Zombo, but my mom and the rest were all Team Ghost. And they all had the exact same definition that I had just defined previously. So it was very similar, the emotions and the reason behind the fear, which I thought was interesting.
Ben fought with them too, is what you're
Yes,
saying.
Ben fought very passionately. Yes.
Rachel, what about your family?
I asked my 3 siblings, and my older brother responded really eloquently, and I gotta be honest, almost won me over to the other side.
Wow.
Wow, that surprises me.
And then my sister felt the same way as him. They're both ghosts though, so I mean they're not actually ghosts, but but they're on that side. And so I didn't want to think about it anymore because I didn't want to switch teams right now. And my little brother never got back to me. He totally ghosted me. So
There's his answer.
Erin and Molly, did you guys speak to your families at all?
Yeah, sorry, hold on. My parents are both strictly Team Ghost. Like no question. Team Goat all the way. I've talked to a lot of friends who are Team Zombie, and their reasons are really interesting. They kind of echo a lot of the things I've heard out of you guys, so that'll be interesting
And that
to
you'll
talk
hear
about.
out of us again tonight. Yes.
That's right, yeah.
And Molly, have you talked to anybody else about it that's been interesting?
Yeah, so I did not ask my family about it, but I just returned from a 5-day science museum conference, and I did talk to some science museum folks about it, and I think I spoke to 3 different people about it, and they were all strongly Team Ghost.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Scientists is all I'll say.
I'm a scientist, kind of.
Yeah.
Just wanted to
really.
point that out in case you didn't hear that.
So Kylie, do you want to kick us off talking about your pick?
Yeah. So first I'll discuss why I'm Team Goat in the first place, following that definition, which I think...
I just interject very quickly?
Yeah.
That we're using the terms goat and ghost interchangeably, and also the term zombie and zombo.
And
Just want to
Zamboni.
make sure people know that.
Just
There's
so
not
no one
4
thinks we're
teams.
talking about how afraid we are of goats.
That'd be scary.
Yeah, it's good to clarify.
If I woke up to one in my bedroom, I wouldn't be thrilled.
Well, you remember
Yeah,
Black
that's true.
Phillip?
Oh, right, yeah.
Black Phillip is a really
Yes.
scary goat.
So Kylie's team goat.
Yes, and I think the biggest reason for me is the idea of not being able to see something that is in some way hunting or haunting or following me, and this sense of having no control over that. So when I think something to clarify is that if I was to take an objective, logical approach to this, I would say, okay, well, yeah, zombies are more dangerous and more able to kill me based on just the logical ways that they could exist and what they do. But from an emotional standpoint, the idea of not being able to control or attack or see this thing and it having some sort of just malevolent, evil goal is just absolutely terrifying for me. So that's why I chose Paranormal Activity as my movie. So for those who haven't seen it, I don't remember when it came out. A few years ago. I saw it when I was a teenager. But the whole idea is that it's a couple in their house, and inside of this house is some sort of evil spirit of sorts. You never see. I mean, this isn't really spoilers. You never see anything. From
Can we talk about spoilers?
Absolutely.
I think spoilers are okay. Do people think spoilers are okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't, from what I recall, you don't see anything the whole movie that, you don't see a ghost or a demon or anything like that. It's like sort of filmed like a documentary in some ways, and you just see a dark hallway next to the bed while they're sleeping. Mm-hmm. And sometimes during the, like, fast forward through the night while the couple's sleeping, you'll see things move, or you'll hear something whisper the woman's name, and eventually it turns into some sort of, like, possession, but it scared the shit out of me. Just the idea of when I'm sleeping, something being there and standing over me or watching over me and just having no idea, and it being able to enter your mind like that, or your partner's mind. It hit every single fear for me, and I could not sleep for so long after watching that movie. And I think there's more after the original, but I didn't watch any others. And I originally watched the ending that Steven Spielberg didn't do, so I mentioned this to you earlier, Hannah, but there's an alternative ending where there's not any sort of jump scare or anything at the end. She just kind of walks off downstairs, and you hear a scream and, like, a thud, and then it sort of just ends without a climax, which for me was much more frightening. Or no, it actually ends with her being possessed and the police coming in, and it's just there's no need for unnecessary jump scares because the whole situation in itself was, like, just so freaky. So yeah, I thought that movie best represented my fears, because that could have been a demon or a poltergeist or whatever you want to call it, but that was like a scary ghost for me.
That sounds so scary. I did not watch that movie.
You shouldn't.
Yeah. I'm like, no. I was like, literally. I actually didn't watch any of the scary movies on the list because Molly was just out of town, and I was like, definitely not gonna watch scary movies like while I was alone in my house. Like that was like 100% not happening. I was like, fuck this podcast. No.
I watched it a couple days ago, and my first issue with it, Kylie, which
well,
gets
all right,
to the
let's start off there.
Which gets to the definition thing, and so we won't harp on it too long, but it definitely is a demon, because they bring a psychic in, and he's like, I can't help you. This is not a ghost. This is a demon. Like, he literally says that.
This is not a ghost.
I mean, what is
It's paranormal.
He's like, let me give you the phone number for this demonologist friend I have, and then the demonologist friend is out of town all week.
But it's like the same thing.
Spirits.
I mean, what does it matter?
In this movie, not in the canon of this movie. It's not the same thing.
And I will say, even if we include that as a ghost, I didn't find that movie scary. I'll talk about this more when I talk about my movie, but like, one of the main reasons I'm not scared of ghosts and more scared of zombies is that in no way in my mind could that have ever really happened. Where, like, because ghosts are not real. Whereas with zombies, while they're also not real now, like, something like the rage virus in 28 Days Later is, like, completely a possibility.
A lot of assertions coming out of you. And
Exactly. Like, Ben, I mean, you can say that they're not real, and that's probably true, but there's also people who have stories, like, real stories about things like that happening to them. You know?
Yeah.
I don't buy anecdotal evidence.
Well, should I not believe any story? All right, Molly wants to say something.
Hello, introvert in the ear snack. Anyway, I just want to, like, I'm also afraid of ghosts more than zombies, and I also accept that they may not be real, but that doesn't factor into the fear of them.
agreed. Same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
I have another
a concept can be scary.
Yes.
Without it having to be real.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. I scream at zombie movies, so
Sure,
I
yeah.
get it. But I have another comment about this. This is more a general comment about ghosts and spirits. Okay. But this movie made me think of it specifically. If you have the ability as a spirit to drag a person out of their bed or possess a person, why the fuck would you start with flickering lights on and off?
Fuck with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. Like, why do it? And why not? It's like, I'll go into depth about this during my turn.
So many opportunities to escape.
But why does any...
They could have left at any time.
They'll be back.
But
That's true with a lot of like scary ghost things. Yeah. I found also is like
just like a horror.
A lot of
movie
times
trope.
you have the option to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't make
There's
sense.
so many horror
it's
movies.
foreplay, Hannah.
Like that.
It's foreplay. It's foreplay.
Why does anybody do foreplay? Because it means something. It makes
Gets you all riled up.
Suddenly a different
No
type
one
of
is
podcast.
attacking foreplay.
That's honestly, Hannah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's another thing is this idea of like, evil spirits. Another thing that's frightening about it is that there's no clear motivation. They're just bad.
Right. They're just bad.
They're just mean. You know,
but there's no clear motivation for zombies.
well, they gotta
either.
eat something, but
Fair
anytime that you get at the heart of what their motivations are, which some movies do, it's always like
Pretty weak.
yeah, it's like, and like a lot of times they're just misunderstood.
well, I guess I'm not really frightened of like the idea of that kind of ghost where it's just a misunderstood, little girl or something.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
I don't know.
It's like in The Sixth Sense. I was thinking about this, Kylie.
Right.
In The Sixth Sense. Like, that shit is so scary, but then once you realize that they're just in need of help, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, she just vomits under his bed, but yeah, okay.
Yep.
That's how I feel about all goats.
Right before we started this ear snack, I was thinking I need to bring up The Sixth Sense, and I'm so glad you did, because that is an example of a ghost movie that I do not find ultimately that scary.
I mean, I saw it when I was... I saw it when I was too young to see it and had nightmares for an entire year. But yeah, I agree. Totally unnecessary. Yeah, it was totally fine.
Agreed. I saw it when I was a little girl and was not ready for that. But
It's not okay. It shaped who I am today. I was legitimately making the bed last night, keep leaning over the bed so my ankles wouldn't be within grabbing distance. That is true.
Okay, so that's about time for. Does anybody have any last words on Paranormal Activity? Kylie, do you have any last words?
I guess my last thing before we're transitioning to zombos after this, right?
Yes.
Is that the biggest thing that made me realize I was Team Ghost, aside from all those other things I mentioned, is that I can't think of one zombie movie where I've felt scared. I've always after I watch zombie movies, I'm in sort of a sad mindset where I'm like, man, zombies make you, because all zombie movies highlight how bad humanity is in some way, and I always just kind of leave them feeling somber and a little unsettled. But I'm never covering my face during a zombie movie.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
not. I don't know. So that's,
I agree. Agreed.
I'm the opposite of you, Kylie. What were you gonna say, honey?
Oh, no, this was just an aside about Paranormal Activity. I told Hannah when we went to watch it that the first time I watched it, by the end I was rooting for the demon. Only because, I mean, the woman is sympathetic, but the guy, you just, want him to die after about 5 minutes.
It's so annoying. Stop fucking talking about Ouija boards. Nobody wants a fucking Ouija board.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since I was 16. To be fair, I couldn't rewatch it. You can never make me rewatch it. But yeah, yep, he was bad.
Well, he's super annoying. Just trust us.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, great topic, Kylie. Good discussion, everybody. Great segment.
Good job.
Pat yourselves on the back.
So Rachel is up next. Rachel's Team
All right.
Zombo.
Yes, Team
correct.
Zombo. And
All right, hostess.
Narwhal, I'm sorry.
You don't call narwhal when you...
I called Narwhal on myself.
You caused that narwhal.
Go ahead, Rachel.
okay. I picked a book. first of all. I picked World War Z, but the book, not the movie. And I never saw the movie because I had read the book first before the movie came out, and I heard from a fellow movie enthusiast that it wasn't very good, and it didn't cover a lot of the it didn't cover a lot of like the expanse of what the book covers. And I'm going to talk about the book just so you guys know, because I know some of you watched the movie in preparation for this ear snack. But anyways, so World War Z is written by an author named Max Brooks, who you may not have known is the son of Mel Brooks.
Oh, wow.
Wow,
Yeah.
fun fact.
Yeah, and as an aside, when I was like getting back into this book, I read this book a couple years ago. So instead of reading it again in preparation for this ear snack, I just like watched a bunch of videos, and I found some ones of like him talking with Stephen Colbert and like other late night hosts. So I would suggest go out and like check out some of his little interview clips. They're kind of interesting. And they totally reveal that the reason why he wrote this book, and also a zombie survival guide book, is because he's legitimately like afraid of zombies and thinking about how to survive a zombie apocalypse all the time. And so like he wrote the books because that's what kind of consumes a big chunk of his life.
Interesting.
Takes one to know one.
Yeah, I guess. Kind of.
I don't know if that applies, but it sounded good.
You were confused when you threw that out there.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
So, and actually, I want to touch on a couple things that Kylie brought up, because like one thing, Kylie, that you brought up was that feeling of kind of being out of control when someone's taking over, like in your head or something. And actually, one of the reasons I find zombies to be scariest is also kind of a no control thing, but I guess it comes up in a different way. So I'll explain that a little more. But the other huge thing that I find really scary about zombie stories is what you said wasn't scary. The how a lot of zombie stories will shine a light on the darker side of humanity. And I felt like this book did a really good job of making that real and tangible. So I want to talk about that a little bit. So, well, first of all, I want to start with just reading a book instead of watching a movie. For me, at least, when I'm reading a book, I'm making my own mental images of what I'm taking in. And it's almost like I'm able to create my own brew of terrifying, because like I'm making it myself. I'm not watching someone else's version of the story, even though that can be really scary too. But I find when I'm reading, I'm like totally sucked into it, and I'm making the pictures in my head, and I just can easily terrify myself, I guess. So just reading it, I find that in itself to be a scary medium. But then the format of this specific book, so this is set up as a collection of stories from real people. Well, they're fake people, but they're characters who are like meant to portray real people from all over the world, from all different walks of life, and it's like like an oral history through this collection of different people's stories, and it's been gathered by this guy who gathered all these stories like a decade after this World War Z, and he's going back in time and collecting all these stories and talking to all these survivals and kind of piecing together what happened. And that the way that they do that, or that Max Brooks does that, I found that to be it really sucked me in, and it felt real, because you were hearing from all these different people from all over the world. You were hearing from like military folks and how the military in different countries were trying to combat this ever-growing number of zombies rising up, and like everyday people who were banding together and trying to get to remote places to keep themselves and their families safe. So it just felt that made it feel really real. And then with the kind of darkest parts of humanity, the book does a really good job of depicting different examples of that. For instance, there's at least one company in the book that decides to start selling this vaccine for this zombie virus that is causing everybody to become a zombie, but it's fake. I think it's like actually a vaccine for rabies or something. It's not actually fighting the zombie virus. And so there's all these people making a crap ton of money as the world is ending around them. And
that would totally happen.
Yeah, it's
totally
like
happen.
The book does a really good job of depicting a lot of things that it feels like it could totally happen.
Yeah.
And that is what scared me the most, because even if, I mean, we could pick apart whether or not the concept of zombies is realistic or not for like a potential future thing that could happen. But this book, like once you get into it, it feels like it could happen, and this is how things would unfold.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that you point that out, because I've not read that book or seen that movie, but I am an avid consumer of The Walking Dead TV show. And kind of like after, at some point in season 2, the zombies aren't the scary part of the episodes anymore. It's all these like people that are just like horrible. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, I it's really interesting that you chose a book here, because I took a class actually on post-apocalyptic narratives a few semesters ago, and a big portion of it focused on zombies and zombie apocalypse literature. And so we read a book also, it sounds kind of similar, it was called Zone 1 by Colson Whitehead, and it touched a lot on how capitalism would still exist and thrive in a zombie apocalypse, and it did a lot of similar things where I love reading about and watching zombie movies and media, just because it's so interesting to see how they use it as a metaphor for like capitalist societies and things like that. So yeah, I agree that it can be kind of freaky to see to highlight the issues in today's society, never mind in one where everybody else is zombos, you know.
Yeah.
Well, like I've heard people who are more afraid of ghosts that I've talked to say that they don't think a zombie apocalypse would be that bad because, like, well, you know, you don't have to go to work anymore, and all you have to do is like focus on surviving.
Who are these people?
I work with them, so. But like. But I'm not scared by post-apocalyptic narratives in general. I kind of get the same feeling that Kylie described getting about zombie movies, but like the thing about zombie movies and zombie media, I really want to read that book, Rachel. By the way, it sounds like it is a lot better than the book than the movie, because I watched the movie. I watched the movie and I was kind of like, so like basically the way that I say it around the house to Ian is like, the thing that's scary for me with zombos is people is monsters, but also monsters is monsters.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna need.
Yeah, that's so perfect.
I'm gonna need a recap on that. What is that?
Yeah, it's true.
So like, when the zombos come, then that's when you learn that the people is monsters. It's just the same as any other apocalypse.
Okay, so you're saying it wrong on purpose.
Yes, the people is monsters. But also, specifically in zombie scenarios, the monsters is monsters also. So you have to deal with monster people and monsters
Very
that
good
used
point.
to be people.
The monsters is monsters, the people is monsters, and Soylent Green is people. Think about it. Think about it.
But it's funny because in the movie, Rachel, like, it's actually one of the least people as monsters zombie movies that I've ever seen. Like, everybody is just like, government kind of still exists to some level, and everybody is mostly just trying to help each other out. Like, you do see, I think he did visit a few different places, so I think they did try to capture some of the like different stories in the book, but it's not like it's not like, you don't get that sense. Like, it's just like oh yeah, well, it sucked, but we all worked together through it, and then we fixed it. And like that is just not how it would go. So I'm happy to hear that the book is not that way, and I will super read the book now because it sounds really cool.
Ooh, you'll super read it. Cool.
I'll super read it.
Yeah, a couple thoughts on the movie. I guess what I had heard was it. I mean, nothing really against Brad Pitt. I don't know the guy. But it did. I heard that the movie was kind of just like another vehicle, like a Brad Pitt vehicle, and
he definitely was central. Yeah.
And one thing I liked about the book was there was like a central kind of like a narrator who had been collecting all the stories, but you just heard so many different stories from so many different points of view that it didn't really feel like. It didn't feel to me like there was one guy who was like the hero who you were following, and I kind of liked that. And again, I think it added to the kind of feeling of it being real. And then the only other thing that I want to call out about zombie movies in general, and also about this one, some of the stories in the book did a really good job of capturing that feeling of utter loneliness and like kind of being out of control, like, you know, not being able to rest easy, I guess, because you don't know what's coming, and like, you know, sleeping with a rifle next to your head, or, you know, just being ready to defend yourself at any moment. Like, just the idea of living in a world where there's just like monsters potentially at any turn, it also really gets to me.
Yes, me too. And it did definitely illustrate that. Like, there were times when you met people and you could tell they thought they were safe, and I was like, they're not safe, because you're never safe. And then I was right in the end.
If only you had been there, Hannah.
You know what's interesting too is so many zombie narratives are romanticized nowadays. So a lot of people, and like when I mention this to my family, just say, "Oh, well, I would kick ass in a zombie apocalypse," and it's like there's this idea of it being awesome, largely because of how famous The Walking Dead got, and other things like that, and video games like Left 4 Dead, for example. So I almost wonder if that has numbed me a bit to it, just because I've spent so much time in those worlds, whether it's in a book or a show or a game.
Like, I think that if in a zombie apocalypse scenario, at first, humanity's reaction would be somewhat heroic and somewhat unified, and it would be a little bit more like what you see in what I imagine what you see in World War Z. But then
right. I should say monsters is monsters first.
Yeah. Monsters is monsters first, then
monsters.
that's very true. And that's one of the reasons why The Walking Dead, why like a lot of the diehard fans I know just think the comic book's way better, and something Train to Busan did pretty well.
It is quite good.
That they made the monsters as people really quick. It's one of the things I really liked about that movie, which we will talk about later. So
can I clarify? Is everyone who's Team Zombo, is it more so the idea of the pandemic itself rather than it's kind of like the entire package, right? The apocalypse that's more terrifying.
For me, it definitely is that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's when I think about being scared of zombies, I'm not thinking about being scared of a zombie.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about like the fact that it would spread like crazy. Like, once there's one, there will be more. They will get out of control. Like that. I think that's part of the kind of out of control feeling that I get with it. That really freaks me out.
I didn't think of it that way. That's interesting.
And like and more so than any other movie or anything, like when I was watching World War Z last night, that's just the freshest one in my head, so I'm going to bring this up now. And Ian can attest to this. I screamed so much. I screamed constantly.
That's so interesting.
I bet you did.
I was like, I was yelling like, "Why do I do this to myself? Why am I watching this?" Like, because I was so scared. Anytime you turned a corner.
So it was like jump scares for you.
It doesn't. Yeah. I mean, I'm afraid of jump scare. Like, jump scares always make me jump. Like,
Same.
I'm my mother's daughter, but like, but like, I'm especially scared of zombie jump scares, I guess. What were you gonna say?
No, it's just a question for everyone who's agreeing to the last statement and on Team Zombie. But are you equally frightened of, say, like a pandemic disease outbreak that isn't like wandering around in the same way, but since zombies are sort of an analogy for large-scale infection anyway? Is it
I'm
the same
freaked
sort
out
of fear?
a lot
Yeah.
about
I was wondering the
pandemics.
same thing.
Yeah, I would say yes.
I'm glad you asked that.
Have any of you seen the movie Contagion?
Yes.
I think so.
No, but can I tell a
think.
story about that movie?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So, really strange thing that you're about to learn about me. So I haven't done this yet, but it's still on my bucket list, I guess. Whenever I get really sick, I have this really strong urge to watch a pandemic movie, and I think it might just be because,
Wow.
like, I want to see an example of, like, oh, I could have it so much worse. Like, I'm fine right now because this isn't happening. And so Contagion is on my list for, like, the next time I get sick.
It's really
Rachel, it's a great movie. As somebody who's kind of a nerd about epidemics, it's a great movie. Yeah.
We watched that movie and I was like, well, that's ridiculous. And Molly's like, no, that's how something like that would happen. It's like apparently like super realistic.
It's very realistic.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it sounds
Have you guys
scary.
read The Hot Zone? That's kind of another book about like that kind of scary, and it's a true story too. The Hot
true
Zone.
story.
It's about the Ebola virus.
Ooh.
Ebola.
Terrifying.
Ebola virus is an example of one that I heard was kind of not blown out of proportion, but it's not as easily transmissible as you would think from the way that it was reported.
Horrible.
Is the word transmissible or transmittable?
Transmissible.
I think
It's
it's
transmissible.
It's transmissible.
I don't
Oh, okay.
think so.
Can
Team
be transmitted.
transmittable.
Let's just say that.
Narwhal. No, but
Sorry, buddy. Sorry.
no, but I didn't get to say, but I am not as freaked out by pandemics as I am by zombies, because to me it feels more controllable. Like I don't I feel like I could depending on how it was transmitted, like I could put on layers and I could, wash up, and I could be really, really careful if that situation happened, and I could leave the house as little as possible. And it probably is not reasonable that I think it's less likely that I would catch an extremely highly contagious virus than get bitten by a zombie, really. But in my head, it feels more manageable.
I don't think you could put on layers, Hannah, because Ian was trying to hold a tiny candle near you earlier, and you were like, "I'm hot, get that away from me! I'm so hot."
Turn the
So
fire
Overheated.
down.
I call bullshit.
Always overheated.
I feel like everybody should knock on wood right now.
Oh.
This is not real.
This desk doesn't count. Oh,
Yeah.
the middle bit though.
Oh,
This-
it's
here, right here.
okay. All right, we
That's
got
fine.
it. We did it.
I also want
I'm
to
sure that sounded
add.
great.
I also want to add, just as a epidemic nerd, that there are a lot of viruses that are currently able to pass through the air,
Yeah.
and ones that can survive encapsulated in the soil for more than 10 years, and so it's I don't think you could hide from something if it was ultra contagious. I don't think you could hide from it.
Also, we just looked it up, and transmissible and transmittable are both valid.
They're the same.
They're the same word.
Everybody wins.
I'm adding that. I have a collection of words that sound the same and mean the same, and it's going in the collection.
Okay. Erin, it's your turn.
Oh, great.
If we're unless Rachel, did you want a final word on anything?
No, I think I'm good. Thanks.
I have a final word. Great segment.
Great segment.
Great segment,
segment,
Rachel.
Oh, thanks.
Gosh.
Well
Pat
done.
myself on the back.
Shout into Rachel.
Shout in.
Okay, so my homework for everybody was to listen to some spooked podcast episodes, which was my homework for everybody a few weeks ago on the snack. But I don't want to talk about the spooked episodes. I want to talk about I've done some soul searching about why I think these things are scary. And kind of really touching on a lot of things that Kylie said, when Kylie, when you were describing what scares you about that movie, I just resonated so much with that. For me, if I think about what scares me about ghosts, it is the exact same thing that scares me about somebody breaking into my house with intent to hurt and kill me.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
Exactly. That fear is the same fear. It's the
Yes.
same intensity. It's the same concept, right? And I had this whole thought process the other morning that I told Hannah about like, I woke up from a dream I had in real life of a ghost. And in this dream, my parents had been haunted by this ghost, and they said that it would appear if you like went into a room and closed the door, it would sometimes appear, and like that, like alone and helpless, right? Mm-hmm. And I woke up from that dream and it was so scary, and I was thinking about like, what about that scares me? Like, what about going to a room by myself, closing a door, and having a ghost with intent to like hurt me or fuck with me or scare me scares me so much. And what it is for me is like the thought of like being alone with something with intent to harm you, like evil intent to harm, and being unable to defend yourself. Because how would you escape or defend yourself from a ghost? And that same fear is the fear. And I was thinking about that and wondering, like as a woman, and I'm sure like, Kylie has felt this way too. Like, I've been in scenarios where I'm like, if this man wanted to hurt me, I would have no way to defend myself, right? Like, so like that fear is something I'm readily in touch with, because it's something I fear in my house alone, or in my house, living with another woman.
Just another woman.
Just another woman.
Hey, that's me.
That's like, I feel comforted having a dog, because both in the ghost scenario and in the man breaking into my house scenario. But what I was saying is like that it makes me wonder if women are more in touch with this fear, because I think every woman I have talked to has had an experience where it has run through their mind where they have felt unsafe and in a position where they could not defend themselves if they were to be attacked. And I think, I'm really breaking this down, because I'm like, well, a zombie could break into my house. During the zombie apocalypse, a zombie could break into my house. But I think the difference for me, the reason that doesn't scare me, like I am scared thinking about a man breaking into my house.
Ghost man. Or
a ghost man breaking into my house.
Scariest scenario.
Haunting into my house. Is I think for me that line of like evil intent. I think a zombie are evil things, but they're also like animals. Like, to me, that fear I am in touch with when I think about a zombie is on the same level as if like a mountain lion crashed into my house and into my room. Like, that mountain lion would want to eat me and would want to harm me and would be overpowering. But to me, that like evil intent, there's something so deeply scary about that I don't think I can articulate. But I think to me, like, that's my line right there.
Yeah, you just articulated it, I think.
I'll think a ghost.
Good job.
Right, yeah, a ghost is intelligent and capable of malice and strategy. A zombie is just, it's predictable in its behavior.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
It might be overwhelming, but it's predictable.
Instinct
It's
and
purely
urge.
instinct and urge,
Yes.
just like an animal.
Yeah.
It's not predictable.
I mean, it's not predictable, but it's like maybe a zombie.
In where it will be, it's not predictable.
But you can...
In what it will do when it sees you, it's predictable.
Right.
Yes.
But you can outsmart a zombie.
Yes.
So
But you
I
can't
just...
outsmart millions of zombies.
Yeah, I mean it is the mountain lion thing breaks down if like there are dozens or millions of them, and
but not
if they
not
bite
for
you,
me.
you also turn into one.
But not for me, because like a mountain lion or a zombie would just kill you. A ghost or an evil person would fuck with you.
Yes.
And would flicker the lights and like make you feel scared and like do all sorts of horrible evil things to you before it kills you. Just kill me. Like a zombie, kill me. A mountain lion, kill me. Like, I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid of like everything up until that point.
Yeah.
Zombies will turn you into a zombie.
But you won't be
Also-
sentient.
Yeah, I'll be dead at that point.
That's debatable, but like also, like what if you're... Should I spoil? No, whatever. Like you could be around your family, and like in Shaun of the Dead, when his mom turns into a zombie, and it's like suddenly because she got bit, she's put her son in the position where he has to kill her for the safety of everyone else in the building.
I think you're assuming that I like care about others in this scenario. I'm like, I like too selfish and self-motivated to like. I'm like, at that point, that's not my problem anymore.
Yeah. Can I add something off of what you said, Erin?
Yeah.
Because I obviously really agree with everything you're saying, and I think the way to word it for me is the idea of being in a ghost evil spirit situation makes me feel like I would want to die and wouldn't want to live, whereas being in a zombie apocalypse situation would make me want to fight for my life. And
Anna's raising her hand.
Would do the absolute opposite. Like, as someone who's read a bunch of adventure books and like totally looks up to like those kinds of characters, I feel like it would just have the opposite effect on my will to live.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
It is
I agree,
wild.
Kylie.
Yeah.
It is wild, Kylie, how much your feelings about ghosts echo my feelings about zombies, because
It
that's
is
literally
interesting.
something that I say every time we talk about zombies is like, I would rather die than live in a world where there are zombies. Like, I would just kill my own self. Just
Kill my own self.
I would just kill my own self.
I feel similarly. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if I could really in either situation be driven to kill. Well, I mean, I've never lived through either situation, so I really don't know. But yeah, I would not want to. I think I would fight, and I would want to protect the people I care about, my loved ones. But I don't think I would want to survive for very long. It would would be so draining.
And you would be so aware of the fact that you won't be able to save all of your loved ones. Like, anybody who's not immediately with you, like, you basically have no way to reach them. And
Yeah, especially
will
with
never
our
have a guarantee
family
they're
who's
alive.
so
Man,
spread
they
out
still have cell
across
phones.
the whole country.
I mean, argue that.
The grid goes
Okay,
last.
cell phones need a power grid to run,
Right.
and the power grid needs workers to manage it.
But
Yeah,
that's...
no.
The workers
that
are
does
zombos.
help me
Done.
a lot, Aaron, to understand what it is. Like, I completely understand and viscerally feel what you're talking about with, like, an intruder in your house. Like, I think about that way more often than I think about ghosts. Maybe not more often than I think about zombies, but definitely about ghosts. And so, like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get that. At the same time, so I was thinking while you were talking, and so I'm just going to do, like, a counterpoint
Okay.
real quick.
I wasn't listening while you were talking, but I was thinking.
I was clearly listening. I heard it. Okay, but the thing that I think distinguishes it for me is, like, there is the possibility thing that Ben was talking about. So, but like, here's my kind of, like, approach on it is that, if I think about, like, a zombie apocalypse, I kind of know why it hasn't happened yet, and I kind of understand the reasons why it could possibly happen in the future. Like, I understand that they're not, like, zombies are not real now. Probably.
I don't really believe that you feel that way.
Do you think there's some kind
This
of
was recorded
conspiracy
before
theory?
the apocalypse.
I understand as of this recording that zombies are not real. But there's no good reason why, like, besides, like, a Ghostbusters scenario,
Shouts to Molly.
where I think there was, like, kind of a portal opened.
Can we
Yeah,
just
shout out
can
to
we
Molly.
just take
Shout
this?
ins to Molly.
Can we just take this moment to note that Molly is dressed
Yeah.
as a Ghostbuster, like full jumpsuit, like showed up to this
I
recording.
didn't even
in a
think
full
about it at
Ghostbusters
first. I was just
outfit.
like, oh, Molly's dressed as a Ghostbuster. It's just, it must be her pajamas.
So last year for Halloween, I created the Jillian Holtzman costume from the new Ghostbusters movie. So I felt like it would be so appropriate for me to come in costume.
All right.
Yeah.
Hashtag Team
It
Ghost.
was. It was so good. And your reveal before we started recording was so good. So, great job.
So outside of a Ghostbuster portal opening,
Okay, outside of a Ghostbusters portal opening, there's no good reason why ghosts wouldn't exist already. So the fact that, like, I know that you're talking about, like, people have real stories about them and blah blah blah, but, like, the complete dearth of
Blah, blah, blah.
the complete lack of evidence, the actual evidence and stuff, and also the fact that, like, half the stories you hear from real people. This week on Spooked, there was a story about a woman who basically just adopted 3 ghosts that lived in her house.
yeah,
And they just were like, she had like 4 kids and she adopted these 3 ghosts, and then they cried when she moved away. Like, it's adorable, but that's what I'm saying. Like, half the time, that's what the stories are like. Or people just, like, I think if ghosts exist, then they're obviously, like, they're not doing anything that's so completely fucking with us as humankind that it's become more widely known. Like, I've been desperately jealous of people who see ghosts for like years, and I've still never even come close to seeing one. We were like hanging out by ourselves in a 100-year-old house or something and never came close to seeing a ghost. Like, I feel like if they exist right now, which I don't put out of the question, but if they exist right now, they are so weak that I'm not afraid of them.
That's a very good point.
Oh, those are fighting words.
That's a good point, and I didn't know that about you, that you're jealous that you haven't seen a ghost, because I'm not going to hang out with you in a creepy setting with that kind of attitude, because then a ghost will definitely come, and I don't want to be anywhere near that.
We've been on ghost tours together, and we didn't see any
I
ghosts.
didn't know that about you at the time, so that's not ever happening again.
That's interesting, too, because I just don't... I have no reason to believe in ghosts, because there's no real, like, logic or sense behind it, but I had an experience when I was a kid that made me kind of, without... It's so hard when you have an experience to just deny it because you shouldn't believe it. And I think, but even despite having that experience myself, that was not, like, a terrifying experience, and it's more so the concept of that situation that Aaron described rather than if it's actually real.
Okay, hold the fucking phone, though. Tell me your ghost story.
All right.
Seriously.
Like, you're not just going to be like, I had a ghost story, but yeah, I agree with your points.
But
end of sentence.
It's not like the terrifying kind of ghost that we were describing, but yeah. Basically, when I was a little girl, like under 8 years old, maybe like 5 or 6, I was riding my little 3-wheeled bike to my best friend's house, and she wasn't home, so I was riding it back, and my mom was taking a nap. And in that house, it was just me and my mom, and in that house, there were 2 big oak trees in front of the house. And as I was pulling up to the driveway, I saw very clearly a completely white figure that was standing right next to the first oak tree. And I couldn't see the details of it was a male, of his face or anything. I could just see a very basic outline, and then the rest was completely pure white. And from what I could tell from that outline was that it was like an older male, but I couldn't have like picked him out in a crowd. And I froze on my little bike and stared, and then it walked behind the tree and then didn't come out on the other side. And that was blocking my way to the front door.
Fuck no.
You guys, Erin is so scared right now.
I gotta say, you just made me look behind me to check, like, to make sure there was nothing.
That's what I'm saying, guys. Anyway, so I was scared shitless.
Yeah.
And didn't want to walk by the tree. So I had to, like, come up with the resolve to just sprint. Mm-hmm. So I sprinted to the front door and, like, looked at the tree, and then there was nothing there. And then ran inside and woke my mom up and was like, and tried to explain the situation to her. And she was like, no, you're just seeing things. And I was like, no, I saw it so clearly, and I wasn't, like, I wasn't in the middle of thinking about seeing spooky things and just made it up. And then, actually, a while later, after I described this to my mom and my aunt was pulling up pictures of a photo album, and I described what I saw to her, and actually pretty recently around that time, my great-grandfather had passed away, and she had pulled up an album with pictures of him, and she was like, did it look kind of like this? And I couldn't recognize the face, like I said, but the overall figure and age that I had seen was, like, really similar to what he was at the time. So my aunt had this theory that it was, like, him, you know, coming to see me or something, which isn't really that scary. I don't know how much, I don't really believe that much into it, but ever since that experience, it, like, changed my outlook from someone who's typically very, like, atheist and everything you can be explained with science, and if it can't, then I don't believe in it. It added a different perspective for me that I think's been really valuable, which is that it makes me accept that there might be things beyond our understanding a little bit. Not that I necessarily believe in ghosts still. It was just, it was an interesting experience for sure.
Wow, damn.
That's kind of the thing about any kind of scenario like ghost or zombie where you bring in logic into it is it's just, to me, this is part of why ghosts are scarier, because it's like, either way you're fucked, you know? It's like, would you rather get shot or stabbed? And zombies are...
No.
Shot.
No, wait, hold on. You said when you bring logic into it? When you bring logic
Yeah, but
into
if
it,
you
ghosts
bring...
aren't real.
Yeah, but
and zombies
that's the
could
thing
be.
is zombies, in terms of like what diseases actually do, there's... It's... A disease that's going to turn people into like rampaging, flesh-hungering creatures. Like, I believe in pandemic disease. That's obviously something that's realistic, but disease that turns you into like a hungry, flesh-eating, running, and also like sensing undead creature. That's way more out there. You know, that requires...
Yeah.
I mean, it's like an extreme form of rabies and 28 days later, basically.
Yeah, there's also a fungus that does that to insects. There's a fungus that takes over insects' brains and like uses them as a host, and then goes and eats and feeds through them. So I mean, it's.
But I'm not talking about like
but
how we got to ghosts or zombies. I'm just talking about like you're in a situation where there's lots of zombies, or you're in a situation where there's lots of ghosts. Which one are you more scared of? Logically, it's to me, like I said, shot or stabbed. I'd rather be shot. To me, zombies are being shot because it's like Aaron was saying. It's the animal. It's the hunger. It's just like a simple like I'm gonna kill you and that's all I want to do. Whereas the intent, the malevolence, the intelligence is what makes me much more uncomfortable and uneasy about having something that's just like watching you all the time.
Having something that could not fuck with you, but choose to.
You can't predict it. You know, that's something that comes up in zombie movies all the time. Is like how they learn to survive is figuring out the patterns of behavior about these zombies that they can predict and then use to avoid them. Whereas with ghosts, that's never an option.
And here's what I'll say: like we can you know lean 100% into what Ben keeps saying over and over again, which ghosts aren't real, and. We could say that, but here's something that it is real. Serial killers are real, and like that premise is the same. Like that is deeply chilling to me. Is like something that I think I understand. Like you just don't know the motives there, and you don't know, you know, there's no why.
You can't
there's
think
no,
like that. Yeah.
There's no. Exactly. Yeah.
I just
Wait,
think
I don't
that
understand
we're
your point. What do you mean?
Different types of intent to the ghost. Like I feel like to me the vast majority of the stories I hear that are supposed to be real, or like even a lot of the movies, and maybe this has more to do with the types of content that I consume, but like I feel like the vast majority of stories that I hear one way or another are like it's a momentary freak out, but then like that ghost didn't actually mean to. Like, it didn't necessarily mean to fuck with you. Like, it's, like, I think that, like, to assume that every ghost that you ever might encounter is looking to hurt you or fuck with you is kind of misunderstanding, like, the nature of ghosts as, like, just people. Because most people that you meet are not trying to hurt you or fuck with you.
Right, but
now we're back to the definition.
Yeah, I don't think we're saying that every ghost is that way.
Not all ghosts.
Yeah.
Raising awareness.
Yeah, I'm saying what I'm afraid of. The reason I'm afraid of the concept is because of that possibility or that. And also, like, don't appear in my fucking space.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Stay out of my personal space.
Their space.
Like Alanis Morissette once said, "You're uninvited." You know what I mean? Like you're just not.
Did someone just yell my name?
Are you scared?
Nope.
No.
Lucas?
Nobody yells your name, Hannah.
Well, it is actually my turn.
Well, I just have one more thing I just wanted to mention, which is the reason I chose Spooked versus any other fictitious movie is that, like, this bundling all these things together, the Spooked podcast claims to be real stories, and, like, we don't know if these people are making this up or whatever, but the reason that I find that particularly scary is not necessarily because the stories themselves are scary, but that the people are being like, yeah, this is something that happened to me, which pushes me more into the realm of, like, tending to believe in them. Not that I necessarily do, Benjamin, but you know, it's just like are things that kind of push my mind more towards that realm, which therefore makes it scarier. The end.
Cool.
Hannah's turn.
Yeah, great segment, Aaron.
Way to go, Aaron.
Thanks, friends.
I'm gonna start my segment by talking about Spooked, because there is one story that I had some of you guys listen to at one point that it helps illustrate for me why I'm afraid of zombies. They have not done a zombie story as far as I know, but there was a story recently where a girl was camping, a young woman was camping with two of her friends, and this one almost definitely is true, because there is not actually a supernatural element to it, but this guy's just very briefly, this guy was like hanging out there later than everybody else, and he knew they were camping there because they set up their tent before they like went to hang out in these like baths or whatever, and you know, it was like naturally like occurring, like I don't remember,
Hot springs,
thank you. And
Yeah, that sounded bad.
naturally occurring water tubs.
So scary.
Yeah. Hot springs, yeah. And so it was just these three girls and this man and his dog, and the dog was like rubbing itself up against them, but like it was acting kind of weird, like it wasn't like a friendly kind of thing, it just was like rubbing its body against them and sniffing around and stuff. And after that man left, one of the girls was like, that dog was trained to get our scent, like that dog was picking up our scent. And the man had like there were some clear signs that she was right. Like before he left, the man had like rubbed the side of the dog with a handkerchief as if to get the scent off of the dog, and he had said, "See you guys later," before he left. So they like didn't know what to do, because they were in a super like remote part of the wilderness, and their car was like, he could as easily be waiting by the car as anything else. So they ended up, he did turn up with his dog, and they had to run away from him and try to find some place to get help. And they eventually did, obviously, because she was telling the story. But like, there's this part in the middle where they're running away, and they're running, and they're running over hills, you know, up and down hills to try to get to some place, just any place that has like a phone, like a landline. And she talks about how like in horror movies, kind of the thing like Kylie was talking about, in horror movies, when somebody is like so exhausted and like burnt out, they always find that like last bit of energy or whatever. And she was saying how she used to always judge the people who were like too tired to go on in horror movies, and be like, I would have that last bit of energy, I would be able to push through. And then like in this moment she was just like, but I didn't, like she was like 2 hills behind her friends, because she just like ran out of just energy and steam and stamina. And like I've had flights I've almost missed because I couldn't get from one end of a terminal to the other quickly enough. So like if there were zombies chasing me rather than me just chasing a flight, like I don't know that I would have any more stamina to actually get away from them. Like I don't feel like that's more just like maybe you're just more afraid of zombies when you're like kind of out of shape, like something that I'm working on. But like but that's like one thing that I think about when I think about zombies, beyond the stuff that we've talked about, is just like, you know, you're never safe, you can never feel safe, but also like if you're not in peak physical condition, like you are at such an incredible disadvantage.
This is so inspiring. Like,
Yes.
I really want to go to the gym now.
This is such an interesting perspective too. Like, I'm really glad that you used that story, because I listened to that as well, and I didn't know how you were gonna rope it into the Zombo perspective, but it's actually something I hadn't thought about in that context until now.
Yeah, me neither.
So it was really valuable, I think, for your team.
Well, you can't outrun a ghost, so I don't need to go to the gym.
Yeah.
What?
Well, you can leave the house, but then they follow you sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes, but not all the time. Sometimes they just want you to leave.
I didn't want to bring it back to ghosts. Continue.
Yeah.
But I picked a movie also, and my movie was called Train to Busan, and I think some of the people on this
Elsa and I watched it.
on this snack listened to it as well.
We watched
Yeah.
it. Too.
Oh, good. So, did I say listen to?
Yes, you did.
Pictures and
Yeah,
everything.
you did.
You did.
Weird.
You fucked up and you're not getting
Listen
away
as
with
you're
it.
peeking through your fingers. As you're covering your face.
Listen to it on your train.
Yeah, there was a visual element to it too, Hannah. I don't know if you were brave enough for that one.
So I picked it
was
because it's a good movie, but also because it really illustrates my more central point of why I'm afraid of zombos, which is how people is monsters, but also monsters is monsters. Because there is this really interesting point in the movie. This is a little bit of a spoiler, and this is a newer movie, so I feel a little bad about it, but I'm just gonna do it. Like, at a certain point, like, half of the survivors stop trusting the other half of the survivors because they get separated, and they don't believe that they are necessarily have not been bitten because they're just covered in blood.
They don't know the rules.
They don't know. They just don't know. And like, that's not unreasonable. Yeah. It's not like I mean, they were being told. There was this one guy who was like a complete asshole the entire time and just kept getting worse and worse. And I just wanted nothing more than for him to die. But he convinced everybody else with him that they needed to lock these people. They needed to like quarantine these people and get them away. And they ended up spending so much time fortifying themselves against these other humans who had like worked so hard to get there and were not infected, that they didn't fortify the actual doors where the zombies were. And then they all got destroyed by those zombies they were on a train. So like,
it's a great scene.
It's a great scene, and it's extremely indicative of like the stuff that I'm talking about, where like I can handle an apocalypse by itself, I can handle one zombie by itself, but I can't handle both at the same time because people is also monsters.
But Hannah, would you've referenced like not being able to trust people that you're with, that they haven't been infected. What do you think you would have done in that situation? Do you feel like you would have been advocating for those people, or do you feel like you would have been assuming that they were infected?
I feel like I would have been dead already.
That is consistent with what I've been hearing from you. It's consistent. I would have thrown myself out of that train.
I would have jumped out of
the train to hell nah.
Hannah, I watched Train to Busan today. And great movie. Thanks for the recommendation.
No problem.
Yeah.
And Ben directed it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a beautiful piece of work. Another thing that I thought was especially scary about it is the zombies in Train to Busan are fast zombies.
Yes.
And when I think of my like traditional zombie picture is more the Walking Dead zombie, that are kind of slow and really dumb. But the Train to Busan zombies are kind of like
very
fast,
aggressive.
Yeah, really aggressive, almost like mountain lion-ish. Like they just can like attack you really fast. I don't know. So that's like a scarier zombie.
Yeah,
that's true.
I was gonna say, like, I don't know how many of you have played the Left 4 Dead video game, but they have like different types of zombies in that game, and there's one that's like, it's called a hunter that will just prowl and then like hunt you and jump on you. And there's like faster ones, slower ones. So it's interesting to think about like the different zombie body types.
Yeah.
You know what the scariest? scariest zombie is though in Left 4 Dead?
What?
The witch.
The witch is terrifying. Yeah. She's also like literally the deadliest in the game.
Yeah. She just hangs out. This is kind of a combo of ghost and zombie.
Yeah,
honestly,
it really is.
She just like, she'll like hang out in a spot all like curled up in a ball crying, so you can hear her crying from far away.
She's fucking with you.
Yes, and if you get too close to her and she like hears or sees you or like senses you, then she runs at you so fast and kills you
and just
like
fucking
immediately.
destroys you.
Screaming the whole time.
Yes. It's so scary. I had a roommate in college who had that game, and we would hang out in the living room and he would play it, and he would on purpose allow the zombies to get right up in front of his face before he killed them so that I would scream.
I used to play that game when I was feeling stressed, so maybe I associate zombies with like stress relief a bit too much.
Yeah, you'd be a real zombie slayer in a Z-Foc. I could see that.
Yeah, I hope so.
Hannah, have you heard of that thing? It's like a track you can listen to while you're running, and it's like it's like a zombie like
I couldn't do
scenario.
Yeah, I actually tried it once, but running is terrible, so I stopped.
It really is.
But you could do sit running.
But that's why you should keep
Yeah,
doing
I
it.
could.
If you can learn to deal with running, every other exercise is like just way better.
Hannah, what time is Train to Busan set in? And is Busan a real place?
Yes, it's a Korean
Korea,
movie.
right?
It's a place in South Korea. It is set in the
It
present
was
day.
really interesting watching Train to Busan and seeing the ways in which like a lot of it was about overcoming selfishness and about how in like scenarios, like emergency scenarios like that, people really do need to stick together and look out for each other, and how capitalism doesn't really breed that kind of outlook on people. Like the huge asshole we were talking about was a COO. And the main character is a hedge fund manager, and there's a lot of conflict in the movie of him with like a guy who's about to become a father, and that's like the guy becoming the father is like the selfless character, and then him, the neglectful father, is just overcoming how much he cares about his own survival and how he doesn't seem to see that his own survival is very closely tied in with the survival of people around him, because in that scenario you need other people. You can't survive on your own. It's a great movie.
That's a really good point. That's a very good point.
Trickle down survival.
Trickle down survival. Yep, that's
How many of you ended up seeing, if it's Ben's turn, but how many of you ended up seeing 28 Days Later, too?
I did.
I've seen that one.
It
yeah,
really,
yeah,
it really shows people as monsters.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
For sure.
It's Molly's turn.
Did you have any last words, Hannah?
Before
Before that zombie behind you eats you?
Let me also just say another thing that I think jumps out at me about another thing that I find echoed in my day-to-day life, like the reason I think about that, like we were talking about when this first came up on a previous episode, why Ben and I both think about what if the zombie apocalypse happened whenever we're like on a road that has no other cars on it and stuff, is like I feel like a lot of the beginnings of zombie movies, Train to Busan is a great example, is like so is Shaun of the Dead, actually, is people not noticing the signs that are going on around them. And so like it ends up making you feel kind of hyper vigilant in your own life about like just like taking that extra step of like thinking about what you would do in a zombie scenario, because you never know
at all times.
It's not like they expected it, so why shouldn't I?
World War Z, the book, does that well as well, talking not only about how like it takes a while for people to see that there's a problem, but then also like in certain places where the virus starts to spring up, like that information may or may not be readily available. Like there's a portion of the story where the information is actually suppressed, which ends up meaning that people hear about it a lot later than they really should have, which contributes to how poorly things unfold. So that's another interesting little snippet for that.
Yeah. And if you think about the state of early warning systems and how ineffective that they can be, not even just ineffective, like how often people ignore the push notifications they get on their phones about any old thing.
Right. I just have a quick parting thought about Train to Busan. There is a sushi place by my work called Busan. So this lady is in... I have like the most wicked sushi craving right now, talking about thinking about taking a train to Busan tomorrow. So.
You do that.
Okay, I'll report back.
Okay, Molly got greedy and she has 3 movies.
Oh, come on.
Hi, Molly.
All right, so I picked 3 movies because all 3 of them illustrate things about ghosts that I am frightened about. And I also want to add that I very, very much agree with all of the things that Kylie and Aaron have said up to this point, and they've made like really strong ghost arguments. Way to go, Team Ghost.
Team Ghost.
So the 3 movies that I suggested are The Others, The Shining, and The Grudge. And so in the thing that overlaps with both the movie The Others and The Shining is the capability that ghosts / demons / hauntedness have to really mess with your mind and kind of unravel a person, and kind of things that other people have alluded to earlier, but just like that is so scary to me, to just be like so messed with that you like start almost turning into a monster yourself, and you kind of like unravel, and then in just really horrible ways. And the thing about the movie The Grudge, I saw it when I was in middle school, and
wow, you're very brave.
Yeah. And so if anyone hasn't seen the movie The Grudge, it's a remake of a Japanese movie by the same name, which is like, my understanding is it's like way even scarier.
The Japanese version or the American remake?
The Japanese version.
Oh, wow.
Which I have not seen. I would like never watch that. So the thing about the movie The Grudge, I went and saw it in the movie theater in middle school, and it's really scary, and there's like, without giving too much away, there's like super, super evil things that live in the attic of this haunted house. And yeah, and very, very early on in the film, but also at other points in the movie, people get like ripped up into the attic by this evil thing and just like murdered, right? Whoa. And so I went and saw it in the movie, and then I came home really late, and my mom was waiting up for me, because that's kind of how she do. Love you, Mom. And I go up to my room to go to bed, and the access door to the attic in our house was in my bedroom. And I go walking into my room, and it's fucking open.
Oh, no.
And I just watched like a really freaky movie about like attic demons. And I like freaked out, and I like ran downstairs to ask my mom, like, did you open the attic? And she had, and she just had like neglected to close it.
And that's how she started a grudge against her mom.
Yeah, so scared. And that's probably why that movie is so scary to me to this day, is just because of that moment.
That's awful.
But like in reflecting Aaron's thoughts about evilness and evil intent, actually both in the movie The Shining and in The Grudge, the evil things that exist in the house / hotel originate in like a husband murdering his wife out of rage / jealousy, and then that all of that emotion and like the act of murder, and there's some things about like bodies being hidden within the house, all of that stuff kind of leads to these like evil spirits existing in and haunting the spaces, and so with all of that like backstory, kind of like creating the evil.
So those like fears go hand in hand, really. The like fears of being
right,
murdered,
and then like the monsters in the Grudge are fueled by this rage, right? For being like the man feeling the rage about believing that his wife was having an affair, and then like the wife, and there's a child, and like they like were murdered, and so like they have all this rage. And like even so, then in present day, when people come into the house who have nothing to do with the story, they just become victim to this like rage and evil, and like it's just really freaking scary. Yeah,
it sort of creates a situation where it's hard to see any hope it feels like in the Shining, for example, it creates like an environment, not just in the movie, but for the viewer, where there's no there's no positivity in it. You kind of just drown in it, and I think that's a big part of the fear for me as well, is just being completely overwhelmed by some sort of negativity where there's no way to see out of it, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it sounds very scary. I haven't seen The Grudge.
I'm not recommending it.
I won't. I don't think I will see it. But have you watched the others recently?
Within the year. I did not rewatch it for this ear snack.
Last year, Molly and I did a thing called Wasamanu, which stands for watch a scary movie every night until Halloween. Wasamanu.
We've actually celebrated it for 2 years.
Oh, 2 years. Yeah, I actually just looked at my Facebook memories, and today, last year, was our first night of Wasamanu.
Mm-hmm.
But we watched it during Wasamanu last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because the others, for me, we watched it last week, sometime recently, for the ear snack, and the others for me, without giving too much away, is kind of a perfect illustration of why I'm not afraid of ghosts.
I ain't afraid of no ghost.
Can we have a synopsis of the others? Because I don't know anything.
Yes.
Yeah, are we cool with spoilers? Because there's a twist at the end.
I don't think we should
refuse
spoil
If
it.
you're listening to this podcast trying to avoid spoilers, just do
No,
it.
I can-
It's not gonna work.
I can give us a synopsis without spoiling too much, I think.
That I think like your Train to Busan spoiler, like the spoiler of the others would ruin the whole movie. So I don't think we
That's
should
the thing.
give a spoiler.
But that is also the spoiler that illustrates my point. So I'm not sure
Okay.
what to do.
Okay, warning, listeners. If you want to watch the others without being spoiled, stop listening.
Skip like 30 seconds ahead.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
So,
Maybe a minute.
so
Maybe
Maybe
more
like
than
2
30
minutes.
So in the movie The Others, there's a mother and her 2 young children. The mother's played by Nicole Kidman, and it's like World War II time period, and her young children have a rare photosensitivity disease, meaning like they can't ever be exposed to sunlight, and so she takes them to live in this like house kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's this like lovely like mansion-y old house, like on the English countryside or whatever.
Death haunt.
Yeah, seems super haunted. But because of their disorder, they have to keep the curtains closed at all times. And she the mother goes through a couple of caretakers correctly because the mother keeps walking into rooms and finding the curtains left wide open, which is like the one fucking rule, right? Is they can't be exposed to sunlight. And so, but because of that, like the movie looks creepy because it takes place in like the dark.
And she's
a
a little weird, and the kids are
She's
a little weird.
The kids are a little weird.
Yeah,
and the daughter keeps seeing other people.
Right.
And telling her mom about it, and her mom doesn't believe her.
Right, and so the kids kind of like start to see others, and then the mother kind of starts to break down around like, oh my god, like there's something wrong with my kids, and then like she kind of starts to believe it, and there's these like ground staff that show up that seem like ultra creepy. Basically, like spoiler warning, it turns out that the mother and the children are the ghosts.
Whoa,
And-
Sixth Sense.
And they
But
are
so are the groundskeepers.
Yes.
They're all ghosts.
they are ghosts, and they are living in a house that is lived in by living people. And so like the reason that they keep seeing other people around the house is because there are people living in the house, and they are the ghosts. And so the groundspeople are like anyway trying to let them know that
Yeah.
they're dead.
The groundspeople are like older ghosts who have been
Yeah.
around for longer, and they're trying to like gradually ease them into the big reveal that they're actually dead ghosts.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah, that's a nice ending.
No, because they're ghosts because the mother smothered her children and then killed herself. Like, to me, that's where that shit is scary AF.
Okay, but
she forget that?
She slowly starts remembering.
Yes, they all forgot how they died because they forgot they were dead.
Yeah.
But let me counterpoint that with, yes, that's a whole lot of negative energy and a terrible thing that happened. But they were not actually trying to haunt anybody or hurt anybody or scare anybody. And the only real reason that there was any, like, significant contact between the ghosts and the family was because they were actively reaching out to them. They were, like, had a medium that was showing up, like, every night to try to talk to these ghosts.
Well, that's not a scary ghost situation, IMO. Like, that's not...
Wait. But is there any kind of, like, resolution between the mom and the kids?
Yeah.
Like,
They're like, well, so because they're dead, they're not photosensitive anymore. So it's kind of nice at the end because they're all, like, standing in the window together because they can finally look outside and see the light. Because
she killed them.
Yeah, but they forgive her. Yeah.
What?
I mean, what are you gonna do?
I don't think the movie's scary. I think it's creepy. Like, I think it's like it's a fun movie. Like, I would watch again because it's not scary. It's just like fun, creepy.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But
seasonally,
but also like for almost the whole movie, you don't understand that they're ghosts,
right?
And like the kind of breakdown that the mother goes through with this, like, there's something else in my house, like, freaking out, like, what's wrong with my kids, like, are we being, like, possessed or haunted by something, like, that kind of experience is well expressed in the others, and, like, you know, even though it wasn't necessarily the case for them because they were the ghosts, I thought that illustrated that experience well.
I get that. I'm not trying to narwhal you. It ended up making me feel more sympathetic towards ghosts than I had before. Yeah. Personally.
Narwhal is a great safe word because it's like you use it when you feel like somebody is pretending like your feelings aren't real. They are real. And they always have been.
Yeah. I also want to point out that, like, so, like, the ghosts in the others, like, you know, might be considered, like, the nice ghosts. The ghosts in The Grudge are ghosts because they are the spirits that remain after people died. But also they're, like, extremely demonic. And they, like, throw people around and, like, throw people downstairs, and they, like, look fucking scary. And they, like, eat people. And so, like, it kind of, you know, in that area where we were debating whether that, like, demons are included in the ghost category, The Grudge has ghosts that are demonic. And because they originate from dead people, like, I think they absolutely count.
Way to tie that back together.
Yeah. They're, like,
really well done.
They're, like, super scary ghosts.
Yeah.
I've got some, like, serious heebie-jeebies right now. Is anybody else? I'm so creeped out.
Yeah.
Well, we're all with people.
Again, I want to say I'm not recommending that you watch the movie The Grudge because it will scare you. But if, for research purposes, I think it's an important film to consider. So
never watching it.
If that research is important to you, it's one that should be included.
So go read a summary on IMDb.
Yeah, but you got to see them though.
Nope. No, I don't. Don't got it.
I don't. I'll
put that under the maybe I'll watch it in broad daylight.
Yeah, well, I'm home. You won't.
Oh, snap.
It's Ben's turn. Unless, Molly, if you have any last words, now is the time.
I have a last word. Great segment, Molly.
Great segment.
Absolutely amazing.
Sorry, but do you have
did we
any
give
last
Hannah
words?
a great segment yet?
I don't think we did.
Hannah, fucking great segment.
Yeah.
It was so great. We had to like
Really
wait.
killed it.
We had to wait another segment to get over how great it was, so that we could like
We
great
just
segment.
remembered how amazing. Yeah.
Good old days of Hannah's segment.
Oh man,
I missed it already.
that was a good time.
Baby
My
Ben.
movie that I chose was 28 Days Later, as we've already talked about. And it illustrates, and this is going to kind of echo a lot of points Hannah and Rachel made, because there are a lot of the same reasons I'm scared of zombies, but I think it illustrates them really well. like the reasons why they scare me so much more. For one, the fact, like the timeline of it, because the premise is that this guy got like hit by a car or something, right?
Yeah.
And he was in the hospital like in a coma for 28 days, kind of like the beginning of The Walking Dead, actually.
Yeah.
And he's in London, and he wakes up in the hospital naked for some reason. I don't get why he was just randomly naked in the hospital.
Package. You
see his whole dick right at the start.
Yeah.
You gotta get raw at the start. Gotta get in dirty.
And then he just
They
walks out.
censored it in the trailer on Amazon. He looked like a Ken
Really?
doll. Yeah.
He walks out into downtown London and like all over London, and it's just abandoned. And he's only been asleep for 4 weeks.
And I'm
it's
already
like,
screaming at that point because I'm expecting every corner he goes around.
Yeah, exactly. And they actually do a really good job of that movie and like mixing up when, because like in a lot of zombie movies, they like he'll start going around a corner slow, and like the cameras will change, the music will change, and then there's definitely gonna be a zombie.
Yeah.
And they mix it up a lot in 28 Days Later, because like half the time there just isn't.
Yeah.
But it like that tension, they really capture that tension that you feel of like you're never ever safe.
Yeah.
No, like while you're walking around.
See.
So that's one thing, is like the isolation, the fact that it's we've talked about like the pandemic aspect of it, like that it wiped out so much of the city so quickly, is what's one of the things that's really scary to me. And then I feel like I can spoil,
It's an old movie.
because it's like 15 years old.
Yeah.
They kind of end up in what they think is a relatively safe place. Like a lot of the points I feel like people make against zombies is that like against zombies being scary is that you can handle them, you can kill them, you can shoot them, whatever. And they get to this place where they're like find a bunch of soldiers in a like mansion in the countryside who have like set up a barbed wire fence, and they have like a bunch of heavy weapons and floodlights with a generator, so like whenever there's any zombies coming towards them, they can kill them easily, and they're like safe. But then it gets to the people as monsters part of zombies, which is I think part of the reason I'm so scared of zombies is because I'm scared like people are also capable of evil, and that really comes out in apocalyptic situations. And apocalypses are like the epitome of apocalypse, because of like the lack of safety, and
It's anarchy.
yeah, it's like absolute anarchy. And so they end up not being like new. Then honestly, there are only like maybe 30 zombies you actually see in the movie. And then the most dangerous thing they come upon is this safe military house, basically, with like 10 soldiers in it.
Yeah.
And that's what's like a perfect example of what's so scary to me. And then on top of that, the zombies themselves are pretty terrifying, I think. They're fast zombies, like in Train to Busan, I guess. And the idea behind like the zombie, how it started was there's like this virus in chimps called Rage that was getting researched at I think like Cambridge University, and then these animal rights activists released all these caged chimps, and one of them got bit because all of them were infected with Rage, and then it spread in like 4 weeks to take out the entire island of Britain, basically.
It's even more transmissible than bites in 28 days later. It's like if you get it in your eyes, if you get it in your mouth.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times I yelled at the screen, like, why are you not wearing protective headgear right now?
Yeah.
Like,
I thought one of the most like tragic moments in that movie, and I still think about it a lot, was the dad and his daughter. His dad had been trying so hard to protect his daughter, and then he just gets one damn drop
Just
of
like
blood
Train
in his
to
eye,
Busan.
and
Crazy.
he knows what's going to happen, and so he's like saying goodbye to her, and
he's screaming at her to get away from him and like pushing her away.
yeah.
I think I had actually chosen 28 Days Later for Ben's movie because he hadn't seen it yet, and I knew it would highlight a lot of his fears. And I think there's one particular line in it that is admittedly very frightening, which is that we can't really right now understand the concept of no government. And there's this moment where when the main character comes out and he's like, okay, and he's learning about what has happened in just 28 days. And he's like, okay, but what about the government? They're in some bunker somewhere. And that's exactly what I would think. I always think in an apocalyptic situation that there's some bunker that they would take, like, the officials to, and they'd be safe, you know? Mm-hmm. And this other character was like, there is no government, there is no bunker. Like, it's actually really gone. Mm-hmm. And that's a concept that I can't even really comprehend now and is very frightening.
Ben, which ending... Which ending of the movie did you see? Because I know there's at least 2 and maybe even more.
I saw the one where they get to like a farmhouse, and what do they? Oh, they lay out hello in blankets as the plane's going by.
Yeah,
Ian has a question about that.
A point on that. They're obviously they're trying to flag down this plane that maybe flies over once a day because they mentioned it not working before, and they're frantically finding all of the cloth they can and
sewing it
all together. But they did hello? Like, they could have done
that's
help.
Because that was
less fabric.
Or hi.
Yeah.
If you're going for that message.
And it's also because, like, that was like the thing when he first got out, he kept, like, yelling hello around London, and then whenever he was, like, looking for a zombie, he would, like, yell hello. And
plane doesn't know that.
People would wake up.
The plane doesn't know that.
Jet fighters only respond to self-homage from earlier in the apocalypse.
What's
that
the
is
other
an
ending?
interesting connection, though. I never thought about that. There's an ending. After he gets shot by Doctor Who. He just dies. They try to save him.
Really?
They have him in the abandoned hospital, and they're trying to save him, and he dies on the table. So it ends with the 2 girls like walking down the hallway, and I think they're holding hands or something, and I'm pretty sure it just ends then.
Wow.
That would have been a better ending, I think.
Might have been a better ending.
And I'm gonna research this after the episode so that you can include it in your next ear snack if I'm totally lying right now and I'm like just making this up.
It's like a dream that you had once.
It's possible.
I also I was just gonna say I want to bring back up a book that Aaron mentioned earlier called The Hot Zone. It's by Richard Preston, and it's a true story about like an almost disastrous Ebola outbreak that happened in 1989. And the outbreak started in a very similar way where there were research chimps in a lab in DC, and they came in infected with Ebola, and that wasn't understood. And Ebola is very, very contagious, and it's transmissible through air or all like, eyeballs and stuff similar to in 28 Days Later. Anyway, if you're excited about stuff like this, it's a great book.
It's a good book.
It reads like fiction, but it's completely true. And he's a very good investigative journalist. So give that a read.
We own a copy if anybody wants to borrow half.
Anybody that we know. Yeah.
Is there a word for like really excited and terrified at the same time?
It's terrifying. I don't know.
That just sounds like you
because I
said
feel
it's
like that's how I
terrifying.
feel about like I like listening to and learning and reading about zombie stories, but I'm also just so scared of them. Like I'm very interested and terrified at the same time, and it's a really weird
Terracited.
Certified.
Great segment, Ben.
Thanks.
Good segment, Ben.
Can I say as my final words for this segment, and my final words because I'm going to die immediately after, on Molly's movies, I feel like I totally agree that on like on an individual scale, like in a house with just one, ghosts are scarier than zombies. But I can never think of a zombie like that because they come with the whole package of the zombie apocalypse and the terrifying pandemic, and that's what's like the really, really scary part for me. And that ends up outweighing an individual ghost.
And that's
I second that.
That's interesting, Ben. Like I can totally see that, and like in a way I agree with it, but also I feel like I would be equipped to resist zombies.
Molly's a Girl Scout, y'all.
I'm an extremely practical person. You know, and I'm not like the most like in shape person ever, but I feel like I would be able to outsmart zombies.
She would. She's so smart.
I'm kind of realizing as I'm listening to all of you that I chose ghosts because ghost movies scare me a lot more. But in terms of like real life scenarios I'm scared of, I think zombies are probably scary.
Wow, you guys got one.
So you flip-flopped back.
He's a flip-flopper. He's a flip-flopper, though, so.
No, it's alright, but you haven't heard my movie.
That's
my
true.
movie's a real spooker. You haven't heard me talk about my movie yet.
It is your turn, I think.
Yeah,
It
It is about that
pants
time,
off.
yeah. Last but not least.
Oh, not least at all, because I don't know how many. I know Aaron's seen the Babadook. Yeah, Hannah's seen it.
Molly's
I've
seen
heard
it.
so many things about it.
I
but
rewatched it today in preparation.
Oh.
Nice.
Alone
yeah,
in the house, which I just don't understand.
Wow. It's a brave lady you got there.
Commitment.
Oh my god, that movie is so well made from so many. It's just like such a great study in like how to use dramatic lighting, how to use sound really well, because there is very little actual like. There's very little special effects, really.
Hey,
when you
would you share with the
What?
listeners what your movie is?
Oh, right. It's the Babadook.
Great.
It's an Australian film. It's about a woman and her son, and the mother had the father in this scenario died as the mother was on her way to the hospital to give birth to her son. So she's with her family going to the hospital to give birth, and then wakes up with no husband and a new child. And 7 years later is where you come into the story, and she's just having a lot of trouble raising her son by herself, as you can probably imagine. And the I don't want to get too much into plot to plot synopsis, but it's just a film that really gets into the psychological part of what's scary about ghosts, and ultimately the Babadook's kind of meant to be a metaphor for how ghosts come from trauma, and that's something that we've all talked about, is it's like a lot of ghosts you just end up feeling sympathetic for, because they're like, oh, they're just trying to do what they did in life, and the Babadook itself is more of just like a spirit than a ghost, because there's no actual human form that it used to take that you ever are made aware of, but what the Babadook feeds off of is the anxiety and the tension and depression that comes from this horrible situation that this mother has found herself in. And there's a lot of movement within the plot of who the Babadook is focusing its attention on. And at first it's the son, and that creates a massive tension for the mother, who's the main character. And the son makes a lot of, there's a book that the Babadook, that is how you first just like hear about the Babadook, that the son just finds on his shelf one night. And in the book it talks about, it's like a scary pop-up book. It's fucking terrifying. See the movie. But there's a line that comes in the book a lot that's don't let it in, don't let it in, don't let it in. And the idea is that at some point you have to actively resist the Babadook. You have to actively push back against it and keep it out of your life.
What is it about this movie specifically that you find that illustrates what you find scary about ghosts?
Just the way that they get into your head, the way that they deal with your own. They know what scares you. Like the last scene of the movie, spoilers, it's happening. Basically, the mother asks, "What do you want?" And it's like facing down the Babadook. She says, "What do you want?" And there's still twists after this scene too, so definitely still see it. But the Babadook comes out in his form, however he appears at that time, and then he becomes her husband and says the things that her husband said to her right before he died, and then his head gets chopped in half. And and she just basically is having to relive this horrible trauma that is the genesis of all of the negativity in their life that attracts the Babadook and creates an opening for him to come in, to be let in. And that's kind of just what draws me to it, is just like this beautiful metaphor of, ghosts are people, ghosts are the problems people encounter that they can't get rid of, and dealing with them is...
That ghost is not
What?
people.
So I first of all, I want to agree with Lucas that it's like such an awesome movie, and anyone on this snack and anyone who's listening to the snack who hasn't seen it should see it. And I experienced the movie in a very different way from you, which is really interesting. I see the Babadook as not a ghost, and like
I was going to ask that.
I see that the Babadook is an artistic representation of the mother's mental health.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that it's like you said, Lucas, like she goes through depression and anxiety, and it causes her to like pull her child out of school, and she like can't go to work, and she can't sleep, and she stays up late, and that's when the Babadook fucks with her. And I see it as her dealing with like her like mental health, and ultimately in the end, like her son like helps her to beat it, and yet the Babadook still lives in their basement, and like she goes and feeds it, but
that's the spoil. The spoil is real good.
Yeah, she goes and she takes care of it, but it doesn't control her anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's very much a metaphor to her mental health.
Yeah.
So
Right,
I agree that
or
it's a
something.
super creepy and very beautiful movie, but I don't know. I don't experience the Babadook as being a ghost.
I think it's,
Is it called a ghost in the movie?
no, not explicitly, but something that's come up again repeatedly in this podcast is that, we can't, a lot of us seem to think that the scenario of a zombie apocalypse is more logically possible than something like the Babadook, or than something like a ghost.
Right.
But that belief comes from the truth that there is no evidence of ghosts, and you really can't ever prove that. There's no way to create tangible evidence of ghosts. People who are experts in spectral phenomenon are a little on the fringe of what's believable and what's not. And I would say a bit of charlatans, bit like charlatans. But it's kind of like, can you prove the depression is real? Can you prove that? Because so much of what she's doing kind of makes sense in light of the way her son is behaving too. Like she kind of has to pull him out of school, and it's just it's something that is. It is. Ghosts aren't necessarily real, but also, there's stories of them everywhere, and there have been for a long time. And people still make these stories to this day and believe them. And it's just like, I see it as a ghost movie for that reason, because it's a haunting. It is something that a spirit that exists outside of these two characters. And that is definitely something that is established with this movie, is that the Babadook is not Sam, the Babadook is not the mother, the Babadook is its own phenomenon that has to be addressed in a very concentrated and frightening way. It's something that overwhelms them even when they have it under control still. And
Yeah.
That sounds like a perfect metaphor for mental
yeah,
illness.
it's
What you just said is perfect. I love that movie, and that was going to be exactly my argument. Molly and I agree on this, that I don't think of it as a ghost movie, and I'm surprised, because I know we've kind of, like, we have different definitions of that. It's a super good movie, though. But
I mean,
I think it
I'm
also.
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can go.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's definitely a metaphor for mental health, but in the movie, it's definitely a fucked up spirit. So,
yeah, exactly.
that was
It's
all I was
like
gonna say.
you don't. Ghosts are. I don't necessarily believe ghosts are real. You know, I actually definitely don't believe ghosts are real. But in a cinematic universe, I think that ghosts are a great representation for something, and I think there's a reason that ghosts in this movie make such a great metaphor for mental health, because I think a lot of the times people seeing ghosts are like, how do we know Kylie's ghost wasn't her own weird juvenile way of grieving that she wasn't even aware of? I don't think that's true.
I didn't know that guy.
That's how we know. What were you gonna say?
Point
what
taken.
were you gonna say earlier, Kylie?
Oh, I was gonna say that it actually makes me more interested to see it, to think that it could be a metaphor for mental health. But even if that is the case, which it seems like it might be, it kind of harks back to that definition, that possible definition of ghost, of being not even a spirit, but sort of a manifestation of negativity.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, I remember my mom's a big believer in, like, I don't know, psychics and stuff like that, and she a while back saw a psychic that when she was during a bad time of her life said that there was something dark that was kind of following her. And it scared the shit out of me at the time when she said that to me. But it's like she was having a lot of negativity in her life, and if you can think about the concept that negativity could sort of birth this presence that's really malevolent and somewhat harmful, is very frightening, even if it's like a result of your mental health.
I think it's almost a question of scale, like the type of negativity and like threat and all that stuff that you guys feel about the threat of like ghosts or manifestations or spirits or demons or whatever. Like, I feel that fear, but on a societal scale, and that's where my fear of zombies comes from.
Yeah,
it's like a personal terror versus a.
So it seems like in the end, half of us are scared of zombies and half of us are scared of ghosts, but all of us are scared of people.
Scared of zombies and ghosts?
People is monsters.
People are very scary.
But yeah, Hannah, I'm kind of liking where you're going with like the scale thing, and just like kind of where do your deepest fears lie? Is it like, is it perhaps around your life and the life you've built around yourself in kind of a smaller circle, or is it like your whole world falling apart? What kind of plagues you more at night? Even though I think we can probably all agree it's all pretty scary shit.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh yeah,
I am
for sure.
constantly gripped with existential dread. Just constantly.
I was thinking about the fact that part of my perception of ghosts might be that I definitely don't seek out as much ghost media as I seek out zombie media. You know, like at least in the last few years.
And
it's more widespread for sure.
And that's interesting because I am a really big Walking Dead fan, but I feel like watching a lot of Walking Dead has made me less scared of zombies.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I understand a lot about zombies because of my TV show.
I feel like I could consume more zombie media because I'm not afraid of it. Like, I won't watch. Like, I'm like at the point in my life where I'm like not gonna watch a ghost movie because I'm like, I don't need to be afraid to be upstairs alone.
Right?
In my own house.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's where I'm at.
I think a lot of it with ghosts, the difference between these types of media is that, like we were saying, with zombies, their motivation is clear, whereas like ghosts' motivation is so much more complicated, and a lot of the times it's disappointing. Like, sometimes it's just like, oh, they're not so bad, but that's what makes the Babadook so scary, is that even like this character's motivation is terrifying still, because it's just horrible, and it's just not fun to have to experience what these characters are experiencing again and again and again. But it's so worth watching. Well,
and Lucas, like, nobody believes them about it, right?
Yeah.
So they experience it all alone. Which adds another level of scary.
That is something we haven't talked about, is the whole people believing you thing, which is definitely more of a ghost thing than a zombie thing.
Right.
Because everybody can see what's going on with zombies, like, after the first couple days, at least. But, like, and it is also kind of a parallel to the whole, like, are ghosts more scary for women thing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole, like, you talked about scale, and there's a whole thing about the ghost experience feels like such a solo experience, and not just solo, but there's no way, when I think about being in that situation Erin described earlier about in a room with a ghost, my mind wouldn't even be able to conceptualize the thought of anything else. I would only be able to think about the situation I'm in, and that I didn't want to be there, and that I'd rather just die. But in a zombie apocalypse situation, of course it would be horrifying and all of those things that I don't mean to trivialize, but I would be able to think about my family and think about, like, eating and moving forward and the world, and I'd be able to, like, see trees and birds. But in the ghost situation, it's like you can't even break out of your own mental prison.
Right. And
that was actually that was my older brother's point. He was saying, you know, if I'm something to the effect of, if I'm in a zombie apocalypse and I'm alive, then I'm fighting, and if I'm dead, then I'm dead. Like, then I'm a zombie or whatever. But if I'm possessed or in a ghost situation, I'm both the victim. He was talking about being possessed. Like, I'm both the victim and the danger at the same time. Like, you're not separated from it.
Yeah, that's really.
But the same is true if you get turned into a zombie.
Yeah, but you don't know anymore. You're dead. You're the Walking Dead.
But I think Kylie said you're not aware of it.
But
okay.
No, but in a lot of things they're not. Like, can I bring up? I want to bring up this point earlier too about zombie motivation. It's like a slight counterpoint to what we've been saying about, like, being, like, purely instinctual. In 28 Days Later, they're not eating people. All they do is attack people. They just see people and fucking go batshit on them.
That is a very unique thing about that.
They don't kill them?
It is.
It's very...
And actually, like, one of the...
Wait, I never caught that, though. Because don't they starve? Isn't the whole point?
Yeah, the thing is they starve to death. That's how Britain gets, like, safe, is because the zombies all starve to death.
So they just convert them and then they all just die from being... Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's way more believable as a scenario. Yeah.
I guess it's maybe also like a what's the point of life thing too for me. Like, for me, like, my highest priority is, like, pretty much all the time is, like, am I having fun? Like, am I enjoying myself? Am I happy? Like, that's, like, the thing that matters most to me. It's not like, am I contributing to society, or, you know, am I there are a lot of things it could be for people, and I'm not saying that this one is the most important one, but for me, the idea of, like, if I'm alive, I'm fighting. Like, it's like, what's the point of being alive then? Like,
that's not that comforting.
You're like, I'm not having any fun killing these zombies.
I'm not, like, and I do think that people have an overblown, and this, no offense to anybody here who thinks they could handle it, because maybe I'm wrong, but, like, I think people have an overblown sense of how capable they would be.
Yeah.
Because of The Walking Dead and stuff.
I agree.
Which I also watch The Walking Dead, but I wouldn't want to live in that reality. But again, Kylie has very perfectly, like, what's the word?
Articulated?
Yes, thank you. My thoughts on zombies by talking about ghosts. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
If there was a ghost in front of me, I would try to talk to it.
If screaming at the top of your lungs counts as talking, then I would too.
I just know I would freeze. I wouldn't be able to breathe. I'd be just gone.
Yeah.
I would jump right out of my
It's
skin.
weird.
The
face is, like, if it has a face, I'm gonna freak the fuck out. If it doesn't have a face...
I can't even think about it. Like, I want to stop.
Yeah.
Well, Rachel's trying to say something and we keep interrupting her. So
Lucas,
I'm sorry.
Did you just say that if it doesn't... Were you about to say if it doesn't have a face, you wouldn't...
If it doesn't have a face, I would be like... I'd just be like, oh, it's just gonna disappear in a little bit, you know?
Like, oh, cool.
No, I'd just be like weirded out, but I wouldn't be as like I feel like a malevolent spirit's gonna. This is just complete ghost theory crafting, but I feel like a ghost with a face is gonna have, like, intent, and a ghost without a face is kind of just like spectral residue of someone's life. That's just.
What about, like, Slender Man?
What about Slender Man?
Yeah, I think the opposite.
He had an
He's
intent.
more of a meme than a spirit. I have a fun little nugget to contribute to this too, guys.
More
Surprise,
nuggets.
Surprise nugget. I'm not wearing pants. Haven't
I'm
haven't
honored.
been this whole time.
Thanks for sharing.
Wow.
Yep.
Good job, Lucas.
I'm honored.
It's the best pants.
I
date.
have a fun surprise nugget confession.
Oh, are
Okay.
you not wearing pants either?
No, I actually am wearing
Lame.
pants. Well,
Alright.
shorts. So although I am on Team Zombie and I am interested in The Walking Dead, I could not get through the first episode of The Walking Dead.
Out of fear or distaste?
Out of sheer fear for the horse.
Aw.
So, like, in the first episode, there's that part where he's wandering around and he gets to, like, the farmhouse and there's a horse outside, and I think he finds the
fucking
old
craziest
couple,
thing I've
like,
ever
dead
seen.
in the house.
Yep.
And I was so sure that that horse was either going to get killed by zombies or become a zombie horse. And I know I'm pretty sure neither of those things
Yeah.
actually happened, but I just could not get past that, and I just haven't been able to
I'm
watch
so
it
angry at
since.
him when he did that. Why would you go into a city at all in a Z-Poc, let alone on a fucking horse?
Yeah,
Like, that's not safe for
that's-
anybody involved.
Just doesn't.
Fuck
long
you
does
and
the
the
horse
horse you
live?
rode
Does the
in
horse-
on.
Does the horse live?
No, the horse gets eaten. To be fair, if I was to go into a city during a Z-Poc at all, I like this shortening of zombie.
Just like at the end of our podcast, we started
Yeah.
abbreviating it.
Hey,
Yeah.
I
I would want to not be on my own
Yeah.
2 feet.
Yeah.
It'd be nice
I'd
to be
wanna
higher
in
up.
something that had walls and windows and doors.
We're,
I'd be
Yeah, but
on
that
a-
wasn't
we're just
an
gonna go
option.
pick up your tank and drive that in, Hannah.
Go find a monster truck or something.
bike.
There's,
He does get in the tank.
Be on a bike.
So.
Rachel,
Yeah,
Bikes
in the
are
first
stealthy and
episode
don't
of-
require
Rachel,
gas.
bikes are no more safe than
Lucas,
a horse.
this is not the time for your bike passion.
Molly has an announcement.
well,
Okay.
I was just gonna say I think it's interesting that Rachel couldn't watch The Walking Dead given how much she enjoyed the
World War Z.
the World War Z book.
The
Like
World
I feel
War
like
Z
a lot
book?
of the things that
I
you
know.
illustrated as really fascinating points in World War Z come up in different but relevant ways in The Walking Dead. I would encourage you to try it again.
It's good.
I think if I had a buddy who would watch it with me during daylight hours, then I would be all for it.
If you're interested in graphic novels, I've read the first volume of the graphic novel, and it's terrific. And it actually has like the same scene with the horse, but it might be a little less frightening.
It's pretty graphic, though.
Yeah, it is quite graphic,
Ah.
but it is. But it's also
I think I
really
could do that.
yeah, and it actually I think the graphic novels are pretty excellent, so I recommend them.
Can I say one very last thing?
No.
One
I'm
last
kidding.
Maybe not,
I'm
because
kidding.
Ian's been
Okay.
trying to talk for like 10 minutes or so.
Oh, you have?
What do you want to say?
Oh, I'm just bad at speaking up. No, and it's a totally meaningless interjection, so I...
Great, hurry it up.
Oh, okay. So let's pretend it was back when Lucas was talking, and, no, just, I always have enjoyed the fact that Babadook is an anagram of a bad book.
Oh
Yeah.
shit!
That is true.
Oh,
Oh.
Great point, Ian.
That was a nugget.
That was a
Great
really fun
nugget,
one.
Ian. Great
Hey,
segment,
thanks.
Lucas. Great show,
Yeah.
everybody.
great segment.
Great
What did
segment,
Ben?
everyone.
You can say your last thing.
Yeah, Ben.
Okay,
say
my
your-
last thing is that as logical as I've been about why I'm scared of zombies more than ghosts, I'm also scared of clowns as much as I
Wow,
am of
clowns
zombies.
didn't even come up.
And the reason
All clowns.
for that is because of a story that Aaron told very young me when we were at our grandmother's house at Thanksgiving about
I was there too.
Way to
I was
go,
there for
Aaron.
this.
we stayed in like this upstairs room that had a kind of attic connected to it, and like a crawl space kind of thing. And Aaron told this story about a like monstrous clown that lived in there right next
Oh,
to where
yeah.
I slept in a sleeping bag on the ground.
You scarred him.
And she told you weren't that old. You were like maybe 15 when you were telling this story, and you came up with this fake cousin who got eaten by this thing, and then right after it happened, you like all the older kids went down screaming to our grandmother and was like, "What's her name got eaten?" I forget what it was, and then she just turned to you and said, "Who's that?"
Yeah.
That fucked me up. I'm still kind of scared of clowns,
My
lot.
dirty
because of
my
that.
dirty secret is I was scared of that story. I'm like,
I was too. Wait, Aaron, was that you? Like, did that come from you, or did that come from me or
I
Maddie?
think maybe
or,
we
like, who
all,
made that?
it's like the lore of family. We all created it together.
Right, all the older cousins like wrote that story together, like collaboratively, I think. But it did freak me out for a long time afterwards, specifically in that house. And also, I didn't remember any of those details at all. So obviously, it made a stronger impact on the kids that we told it to. Than it did
Next
on us.
Halloween, how about we do clowns versus psychopaths?
Psychopaths. They're the same.
Easy.
I have a different missing cousin story too in that house, but maybe we'll save that for
another
another.
snack.
Yeah, maybe it can be our family inside joke next week.
Another missing cousin.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for listening. Great snack, everybody. Bye. Bye. Love everybody.
Love all you
Thank
listeners
you.
too.
Stop recording.
I love all of you.
Narwhals are real. That's not recording too. Jesus, stop recording.